Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. Recently, Pat at the channel Book Chat with Pat did a focus or feature on the poet Robert Frost. Very worth attending to. I will link it in the description box. Hey, come on, you. She mentioned a speech that President John F. Kennedy gave pertaining to Robert Frost. These are known as his remarks at Amherst College on the Arts, or also known as his last speech. And if you search for it online, you can find the transcript of it, though be warned, some of the, at least the transcript at .gov is incomplete. But if you want the full transcript, you can find it. And there is also a YouTube video of the audio of that speech, and I will put a link to that in the description box. So my concern here is less with the poet Robert Frost than with our country and the presidency. And so I thought I would go through this speech. I'm not going to read all of it, but I will read parts here and there and just comment a little bit. So let it be known that I don't think the verdict of history has smiled upon President Woodrow Wilson. Many of his contemporaries despised him, I think Edmund Wilson being one. But there are many of others, and I tend to think that their opinions were just. But regardless, many years, I'm going to quote a little bit, many years ago, Woodrow Wilson said, "What good is a political party unless it is serving a great national purpose? And what good is a private college or university unless it is serving a great national purpose?" The library being constructed today, this college itself, all of this, of course, was not done merely to give this school's graduates an advantage, an economic advantage in the life struggle. It does do that, but in return for that, in return for the great opportunity which society gives the graduates of this and related schools, it seems to me incumbent upon this and other schools' graduates to recognize their responsibility to the public interest. This recognition has largely dissipated. Privilege is here, and with privilege goes responsibility. The problems which this country now faces are staggering, both at home and abroad. We need the service, in the great sense, of every educated man or woman to find 10 million jobs in the next 2.5 years, to govern our relations, a country which lived in isolation for 150 years and is now suddenly the leader of the free world, to govern our relations with over 100 countries, to govern those relations with success so that the balance of power remains strong on the side of freedom, to make it possible for Americans of all different races and creeds to live together in harmony, to make it possible for a world to exist in diversity and freedom. All this requires the best of all of us. That was once part of the calling of the president to elicit from the citizenry the best of us, the better angels of our nature, and so forth. That no longer obtains under today's Trump presidency. Rather, the idea has flipped to bringing out the worst of each man and woman. At the time he wrote, America was the leader of the free world. It is no longer that. Possibly Canada is. We have fallen from that position. Actually, we have jumped from that position. Nevertheless, we need good citizens to dedicate themselves to the task of disrupting this fascist regime. I have this propped on the cat tree. This was for an occasion, this speech that was given, so let me just proceed with this. This day devoted to the memory of Robert Frost offers an opportunity for reflection, which is prized by politicians as well as by others and even by poets. For Robert Frost was one of the granite figures of our time in America. He was supremely two things, an artist and an American. A nation reveals itself not only by the men it produces, but also by the men it honors, the men it remembers. Well, this current regime is trying to remember and honor a right-wing pundit recently deceased, and has ordered the flags to be lowered to half staff, not realizing that that act has cheapened this traditional protocol. It was already in jeopardy, to be sure, but it is no different. Talk has been floated of giving this same political partisan hack a Presidential Medal of Honor. That, under this same president, was also diminished greatly. Marion Edelman, something like that, a wealthy woman, not known for much besides that, was recipient during the first term of Donald Trump. And it is greatly diminished. If this country comes out of this dark period, all of these rewards and honors will have to be re-established differently, because the old has been tarnished to such a great degree they cannot stand any longer. In America, our heroes have customarily run to men of large accomplishments, but today this college and country honors a man whose contribution was not to our size, but to our spirit, not to our political beliefs, but to our insight, not to our self-esteem, but to our self-comprehension. In honoring Robert Frost, we therefore can pay honor to the deepest sources of our national strength. That strength takes many forms, and the most obvious forms are not always the most significant. The men who create power make an indispensable contribution to the nation's greatness, but the men who question power make a contribution just as indispensable, especially when that questioning is disinterested, for they determine whether we use power or power uses us. So right off, you can hear what a great speaker President Kennedy was. In the ancient world, oratory was of paramount importance, and it should be today as well, but you can see that such as the current occupant of the presidency. Oratory is not considered an important skill, or at least it has warped itself. Our national strength matters, but the spirit which informs and controls our strength matters just as much. I should say that America at this point is not a great nation, not great in the least. This party came to power promising to bring greatness, but what it actually did was jettison any pretense to greatness, and in fact has ushered in tremendous and largely irreversible decline. Now, decline was in the long term, but it has just sharpened that arc, or made it into a nosedive. Our national strength matters, but the spirit which informs and controls our strength matters just as much. This was the special significance of Robert Frost. Well, as said in the piece before, the aims of the political hacks in the majority at this time are not concerned with political power. They are concerned with accruing personal wealth. Largely, that is the basis of this so-called Make America Great Again movement. Robert Frost brought an unsparing instinct for reality to bear on the platitudes and pieties of society. His sense of the human tragedy fortified him against self-deception and easy consolation. Well, unfortunately, this president and his bolsterers and supporters have all fostered self-deception, and this has a pedigree. It goes way back. I have been, he wrote, one acquainted with the night. And because he knew the midnight as well as the high noon, because he understood the ordeal as well as the triumph of the human spirit, he gave his age strength with which to overcome despair. At bottom, he held a deep faith in the spirit of man, and it is hardly an accident that Robert Frost coupled poetry and power, for he saw poetry as the means of saving power from itself. When power leads men towards arrogance, poetry reminds him of his limitations. When power narrows the areas of man's concern, poetry reminds him of the richness and diversity of his existence. When power corrupts, poetry cleanses. For art establishes the basic human truth, which must serve as the touchstone of our judgment. I think the rot and degradation of the moral corruption which now infests this land has surpassed the power of poetry to cleanse. The artist, however faithful to his personal vision of reality, becomes the last champion of the individual mind and sensibility against an intrusive society and an officious state. The great artist is thus a solitary figure. He has, as Frost said, a lover's quarrel with the world. In pursuing his perceptions of reality, he must often sail against the currents of his time. This is not a popular role. If Robert Frost was much honored in his lifetime, it was because a good many preferred to ignore his darker truths. Yet, in retrospect, we see how the artist's fidelity has strengthened the fiber of our national life. And that's very true about Robert Frost's poetry, the darker underbelly of some of the poems. And he himself denied it. I should just interject the footnote, of course, which is that I do not consider the poet to be an artist. But pardon me for eating. If sometimes our great artists have been the most critical of our society, it is because their sensitivity and their concern for justice, which must motivate any true artist, makes him aware that our nation falls short of its highest potential. I see little of more importance to the future of our country and our civilization than full recognition of the place of the artist. So, their sensitivity and their concern for justice, which motivates artists. Art without the motivating factor of justice must fall short. If art is to nourish the roots of our culture, society must set the artist free to follow his vision wherever it takes him. We must never forget that art is not a form of propaganda. It is a form of truth. That goes by the wayside as well. Artists are not engineers of the soul. It is the composer. Artists are not engineers of the soul. It may be different elsewhere, but democratic society, in it, the highest duty of the writer, the composer, the artist, is to remain true to himself and to let the chips fall where they may. In serving his vision of the truth, the artist best serves his nation, and the nation which disdains the mission of art invites the fate of Robert Frost's hired man, the fate of having nothing to look backward to with pride and nothing to look forward to with hope. Oh dear. The cat has gone behind the books and they are falling onto the floor. So we have a regime in Washington now that is trying to decimate the arts. The Kennedy Center has been wrecked. The Kennedy name itself greatly blotted in this time, thanks to the efforts of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., part of the current administration. Kennedy goes on. I look forward to a great future for America, a future in which our country will match its military strength with our moral restraint, its wealth with our wisdom, its power with our purpose. I look forward to an America which will not be afraid of grace and beauty, which will protect the beauty of our natural environment, which will preserve the great old American houses and squares and parks of our national past, and which will build handsome and balanced cities for our future. Well, that has not come to pass and is not coming to pass. The national parks are being sold off piecemeal for logging and other concerns. And moral restraint is a non-entity with this administration. I look forward to an America which will reward achievement in the arts as we reward achievement in business or statecraft. I look forward to an America which will steadily raise the standards of artistic accomplishment and which will steadily enlarge cultural opportunities for all of our citizens. And I look forward to an America which commands respect throughout the world, not only for its strength, but for its civilization as well. And I look forward to a world which will be safe not only for democracy and diversity, but also for personal distinction. Well, we have people striving to outvie one another in personal distinction, but that's about the only operating motivation we see on the public stage today. In fact, both democracy and diversity are explicitly targeted by this administration and by the Republican Party in its entirety today. America is not steadily raising the standards of artistic accomplishment, and it is not enlarging cultural opportunities for all of our citizens. It is trying to make everybody an employee of the billionaire class at this time. So, nevertheless, I will leave off. I think that this speech by John F. Kennedy, not only is it a great speech, but it shows you, despite his personal failings, such as they may have been, what a man of high caliber we once had occupying the Oval Office. You can look at the decor of the Oval Office today to know that no great artistic developments can possibly occur under such an administration. So I will say no more. As I say, links in the description box. Thank you for stopping by my channel. And I have been dark for a few days. I've been thinking about the marvelous questions that I've gotten for my upcoming question and answer video. You are certainly welcome to still offer up a question or two if you like, but I'm hoping to film that maybe tomorrow or the next day. Thank you for stopping by my channel.